I found the contract clause that guarantees cost explosions, and your city paid for it. Mega projects don't fail by accident. They're engineered to bleed you slowly, one unforeseen invoice at a time. The glossy render sells jobs and climate wins. The contract fine print sells your wallet. A $50 billion promise becomes a national monument to waste because the system is optimized to spend, not deliver. While everyone argues on cable news, the money quietly moves. I've got receipts and names, timelines that slipped, change orders that ballooned, bond math that compounds, and the people who got paid at every delay. And yes, there's one contract clause that practically guaranteed overruns. If your city has a transformational project, this is the playbook. Where did the money actually go? And how do you stop paying for it? Thesis and angle, the Boondoggle playbook. Okay, but actually look at a pattern that repeats across many transformational builds. Hype, ribbon-cutting delay, unforeseen costs, bailout, ribbon-cutting again for a revised scope. That's not just bad luck. It often reflects incentives that reward throughput of cash, not outcomes. Contractors seek margin protection through relief events. Consultants bill by the hour. Banks clip fees on issuances and refinances. Agencies justify headcount on complexity. Politicians get their photo op early, long before the real bills show up. If you felt déjà vu watching high-speed rail, urban transit extensions, and stadiums drift for decades, this is one reason why. Observation first. The surface narrative is often the same: growth, jobs, resilience, green future. That's how projects get social license. Once the headline is secured, the machinery kicks in. Cost estimates are kept competitive to win votes. Benefits are framed as aspirational to imply urgency. Risks are labeled manageable because acknowledging them could tank approval. Meanwhile, procurement documents carry enough ambiguity to enable later scope growth when it's harder to say no. Here's what I think is really happening. The system often prefers underbidding followed by contractual correction. Teams lowball to clear the political gate, then internalize certainty and externalize risk via claims. Vendors don't actually want chaos. They want calculable chaos. Risk they can price into relief clauses, provisional sums, escalation formulas, and time extensions. The longer the timeline, the larger the finance and overhead rake. Time is a cost multiplier, and it can become a revenue multiplier for intermediaries. Receipts. Change orders can become the extraction engine. Differing site conditions, utility conflicts, environmental mitigations, code updates, interface risk. Each one is a legitimate-sounding doorway to additional payment, and all are common in major programs. Scope creep isn't a bug. It's often the path from an uneconomic low bid to a profitable actual. Add a layer of value engineering that cuts early cost with downstream penalties, and you've got a loop. Save now, pay more later, bill the delta as unavoidable. If you've ever wondered why fixed price still drifts, this is part of the map. Now the players. The public agency is the sponsor and political shield. Prime contractors manage risk transfer theater. Fixed price on paper, relief in practice. Private equity-backed subs live on time and materials volatility. Consultants, program management, risk, scheduling, claims, sell control dashboards, and later profit from disputes. Unions push for scope and standards that secure hours. Lobbyists smooth regulatory frictions and unlock change approvals. Media happily runs economic development packages funded by ad buys from the same banks underwriting the bonds. Follow the money. Up front is municipal debt, tax-exempt bonds with capitalized interest that lets you borrow more now and pay later. Federal grants are the accelerant, free money that can raise tolerance for inefficiency because it's not local tax dollars. Public-private partnerships promise risk transfer, but availability payments and termination compensation can quietly prioritize lender recovery. Hidden taxes fill gaps. Fare surcharges, utility fees, hotel levies, special districts. Every delay extends debt service tails, and refinancing churn creates new fee events. The opportunity cost is real. $50 billion diverted from maintenance, bus frequency, water lines, or school retrofits that could have delivered immediate compounding benefits. But it can get worse. The political calendar maximizes approvals and minimizes accountability. Leaders cut ribbons at notice to proceed. Their successors inherit the overruns. Audits arrive post-commitment, meticulously documenting failure with little practical clawback. By then, sunk costs and path dependence push completion of a compromised scope at an inflated price. Counterarguments exist. Yes, ambitious infrastructure can pay off. We'll get there. But the boondoggle. Playbook thrives because the market design pays more for time, complexity, and change than for delivery. If you pay by input, you'll get more input. If you ensure margins against delay, you'll get longer schedules. The fix isn't better speeches, it's different incentives. So we're going to map this life cycle and name the extraction points, start to finish. Day 0. How projects get greenlit with numbers that only work on PowerPoint. Birth of a boondoggle, the approval machine. Here's the first trick. Approval lives in a different universe than delivery. On approval day, demand curves are smooth, costs are tidy, and every render has sunshine. The sales pitch hits the same beats. Tens of thousands of jobs, billions in GDP, climate wins, congestion solved. And yes, that independent economic impact model, with a multiplier so generous, it could make a lemonade stand look like a tech unicorn. No one audits it because it's not built to be audited. It's built to win a vote. Observation. Those early estimates feel strangely light. Insight. They're biased by design. You get optimism bias. People genuinely believe they can thread the needle, and strategic misrepresentation. People who know better but know the politics. Put those together and your cost number isn't a forecast, it's an instrument. It's engineered to clear the political gate. The risks are shunted into the footnotes. Contingency assumed manageable, permits on track, third-party utilities cooperating. Spoiler, they won't. Now here's what I think is really happening. The demand models stretch reality to justify size. Travel time savings? Assumed. Ridership? High. Induced demand? Maxed. Meanwhile, the cost baseline is frozen at a pre-designed stage with 10% drawings, then treated like gospel. That combo, pumped up benefits, lowballed costs, creates an approval delta big enough to drive a tunnel-boring machine through. Once that's locked, every future addition is labeled change, not original scope we carefully ignored. Evidence? Look at the playbook. Benchmark underestimates compared to similar projects mysteriously weren't included because local conditions differ. Value for money assessments leaned on reference projects that succeeded under different regimes, then shaved contingency to stay competitive. Economic models monetized benefits out to 50 years with discount rates kind to dreams and cruel to debt. And notice how land acquisition is treated as a rounding error, until the first eminent domain fight hands you a year of legal delays. Here's the sales kit no one audits. Glossy economic impact reports with opaque multipliers. Jobs projections that count every temporary hard hat as a permanent transformation, and emissions models assuming perfect modal shift. The kicker is the peer review, usually a handful of consultants who later appear on the program management roster. It's not corruption, it's ecosystem capture. Everyone is independent, everyone is qualified, and everyone eventually bills the project. Meanwhile, timing is everything. Approvals are synced to election cycles, not engineering cycles. You get a ribbon cutting at notice to proceed, not at substantial completion. That creates perverse timing risk. The person who sells the dream gets the photo op, and the person who inherits the mess gets the audit. The line is always, we can't lose momentum. Translation, we're committing money to keep the political narrative alive while technical risk stays unresolved. Early lock-in is where path dependence becomes policy. The minute you buy right-of-way, sign preliminary design packages, or relocate even a single utility, you've created a sunk cost trap. Walking away wastes the investment, continuing wastes more, but invisibly over time. And once a few hundred small contracts are active, cancellation becomes a cascade nightmare of terminations, claims, and legal fees. So the system nudges you forward, always forward, into a narrower set of bad choices. Okay, but actually, the biggest leverage point is pre-approval due diligence. And that's where corners get cut. Geotech borings? Representative. Utility maps? Best available. Stakeholder sign-offs. Constructive engagement underway. Every underway hides a risk register entry with 2 red flags and a prayer. Then the board votes, the governor smiles, the agency posts a press release, and you've successfully converted aspirations into obligations. Receipts are boring but devastating. Draft cost ranges quietly labeled Class 5 estimate get presented as single numbers in public decks. Contingencies are stacked as if risks were independent, not correlated. Procurement strategies are promised. Design build will control cost. without the upstream design maturity needed for real price certainty. And demand forecasts pick the median in a world where downside dominates. That's not an accident. That's selection bias couched as prudence. Now, why doesn't anyone stop it? Because every actor has enough truth to stay credible. The forecaster can defend assumptions. The consultant can point to methodology. The agency can cite precedent. The politician can claim, following expert advice. The public sees ambition and a plan. This is how approval machines work. They're coalitions of partial truths that add up to a misleading whole. Meanwhile, the opposition is framed as anti-progress. If you push for reference class forecasting, comparing against actual delivered outcomes, you're negative. Ask for independent cost validation, you're delaying jobs. Demand a full utility conflict survey, you're anti-business. Delay becomes the villain, but the only thing worse than delaying for diligence is not delaying and paying for it later, with interest. Here's the pivot we'll need later. Day 0 is the cheapest day to buy down risk. Finish the Geotech. Map the utilities. Acquire land cleanly. Lock standards before procurement. Price escalation realistically. Publish the risk register. If a project can't survive honest numbers, it shouldn't survive a vote. But that's not how the approval machine runs. It thrives on ambiguity, because ambiguity is the only way bad math becomes good policy. Next, we follow the money pipe, the part that socializes risk long before a single bolt is torqued. The money pipe, bonds, grants, and hidden taxes. Funded doesn't mean paid for. It means future you is on the hook. The second the vote clears, finance teams often move quickly to the muni market because cheap money can feel like free money. Cities float tax-exempt bonds, sometimes with capitalized interest, so they don't have to make payments while construction ramps. Translation: we borrow to pay interest on the borrowing, and the meter starts running before a single pier is poured. U.S. municipal debt outstanding is in the trillions, and refinancing churn is a feature, not a bug. Okay, but actually, the structure creates moral hazard. Tax-exempt status lowers yields, which should help taxpayers, but it also dulls pain signals. If the cash is cheap, scope expands. You'll see stacked tranches, general obligation bonds backed by broad taxes, revenue bonds pinned to fares or tolls, and project-specific paper via authorities that sit just far enough from voters to be politically convenient. Bankers collect origination, underwriting, and refinancing fees at every turn. The longer the project lingers, the more bites they take. Evidence? Look at how often issuers refinance on rate dips, extend maturities, and layer on new money with current refundings. Each event clips fees and restarts the clock. Debt service schedules that once looked manageable become a backloaded ski slope. Light now, heavy later, conveniently after the next election. Then there's capitalized interest. For the first 3 to 5 years, interest accrues into principal. By the time operations start, the project owes more than it borrowed, and the operating budget inherits a mortgage it can't carry. Federal grants are the accelerant. Matches sound like discipline, but they can make local sponsors tolerant of inefficiency. If Washington covers, say, 40%, locals mentally discount overruns. We're only paying 60 cents on the dollar. But the grant clock has strings, obligation deadlines by America rules reporting, so agencies sometimes rush to obligate before design is mature. That rush all but guarantees change orders later. Miss a milestone? Now the panic plan includes even more premium financing to plug gaps a grant was supposed to cover. Public-private partnerships get sold as risk transfer. Availability payments, concession agreements, the whole alphabet soup. Here's the plot twist. The private partners' lenders often demand covenants and termination compensation that strongly protect recovery if the public side changes scope or fails to deliver right-of-way and utilities. So taxpayers can end up underwriting key unknowns, just through contract remedies instead of appropriations. The risk premium is priced in upfront, and claims can chase anything not nailed down. Meanwhile, the quiet money comes from hidden taxes. Special assessment districts around stations skim property value upticks. Hotel bed taxes, temporarily, fund debt service. Utility bill riders tack on a few bucks a month for infrastructure resilience. Fare surcharges arrive just until the system opens, then stay to cover unanticipated operating needs. None of these touch the ballot language that pitched the dream. All of them hit your wallet. And then the silent killer, interest sensitivity. When rates rise 2 points mid-build, the carry cost on unissued tranches jumps. Procurement delays collide with a higher rate environment, so the same scope buys fewer yards of concrete. To protect progress, agencies may issue earlier and hold cash, which sounds prudent until idle balances meet inflation and negative arbitrage rules. You may end up paying interest on money you can't efficiently spend. Opportunity cost rarely makes the brochure, but it's the real bill. $50 billion could rehab every crumbling bridge in a state, replace lead service lines, or triple bus frequency for a decade. Investments with immediate lives saved and minutes won returns. Instead, we lock capital into a single mega asset whose benefits, if they arrive, sit a decade out. While we wait, deferred maintenance rots the network and forces emergency repairs at premium rates. Here's the clause I teased: relief for differing site conditions tied to utility relocation obligations. Finance teams often declare substantial funding secured before utilities are actually moved. When those conflicts surface, construction stalls while interest keeps compounding and availability clocks tick. The contractor may be entitled to time and money. Lenders expect continued payments. The public eventually feels the costs. Receipts get hidden in CAFRs and thick appendices. Schedule of long-term obligations, notes on capitalized interest, derivatives footnotes for interest rate swaps that were supposed to hedge risk but added basis risk. You'll also see coverage ratio covenants in revenue bonds that force fare hikes to maintain a 1.25x or 1.5x debt service coverage. If ridership lags, prices rise to satisfy bond math, not mobility equity. Now about refinancing churn, every few years, savings are touted as wins. Often, those savings come by extending maturities, not just lowering rates. The annual payment dips, the total interest paid rises. It's the 30 to 40-year mortgage trick applied to public works. Meanwhile, advisor and underwriting fees are immediate. The punchline is simple. The money pipe is designed to flow even when concrete doesn't. Debt clocks don't stop for Geotech surprises. Grant deadlines don't care about eminent domain, and availability payments don't wait for punch lists. You can't fix the finance at the back end if you sold fantasy at the front end. Next, we hit the overrun engine that converts that liquidity into invoices. Scope creep. Scope creep. How designs inflate after approval. Here's the quiet pivot. Once the board votes, the drawings stop being aspirations and start being subpoenas. Every missing detail in a 10% design becomes a ticket to add scope. Observation. Minor tweaks pop up: better station finishes, wider platforms, upgraded signaling, extra escape stairs, floodproofing, new code interpretations. Insight. Approval locked a lowball baseline, so all the reality you ignored moves into the extra column with a markup. The estimate you sold was for a cartoon. You're now building a hospital-grade, fire life safety compliant, climate-resilient machine room masquerading as a station. Okay, but actually, the vocabulary is the tell. Owner-requested enhancement sounds voluntary, but it's usually compliance catching up. Fire/life safety engineers add smoke control fans sized for worst-case crowding. Structural engineers beef up seismic performance after new peer review comments. Environmental mitigation adds noise walls, wildlife crossings, contaminated soil disposal, and stormwater facilities the render never showed. Each package is rational in isolation. Together they tilt the project into a new cost gravity. Evidence comes stamped RFI and PCO. Requests for information expose design gaps. No detail for utility duct banks at crossings, conflicting elevations between civil and track, ventilation shafts interfering with easements. Proposed change orders follow with time and money. Multiply by thousands. Microstories pile up. A value-engineered station roof swaps to a cheaper system that later fails acoustic criteria, forcing secondary treatments. The temporary construction access roads trigger habitat mitigation, which triggers permitting, which triggers schedule extensions. Value engineering is the greatest irony here. On paper, you shave cost by substituting materials or simplifying details. In practice, you shift risk downstream. Cheaper tunnel liners need more grouting. Thinner slabs demand more reinforcement and slower cycles. You save in the PowerPoint, then pay in field productivity, inspection failures, and warranty claims. The contractor prices the uncertainty. The owner inherits the maintenance. Interface risk is the accelerant. The procurement split, civil in one package, systems in another, stations in a third, sounds clean until alignment changes ripple across all three. A station box lengthens for crowd egress. Now traction power cable runs extend, ventilation requirements shift, and emergency egress distances cross thresholds that force additional stairs. Each contractor points to contract limits. The integration cost can land on the owner as a bridging design gap. Who owns design errors? Accountability fog is built in. Design-build teams argue that bridging documents were defective. Owners argue means and methods were the contractors. Consultants say assumptions were industry standard. Subs say they bid what was shown. Enter the claims consultants with delay analyses and fragnets proving critical path impacts. Arbitration looms. Political pressure says settle now. So costs get buried in revised budgets under euphemisms like post-award adjustments. Then there's regulation drift. Codes update mid-project. NFPA tweaks evacuation. ADA guidance expands clearances. Energy codes push higher efficiency mechanicals. Grandfathering rarely applies when you're still under construction. Each update forces rework, redesign, repermit, resequence. Meanwhile, utility owners discover undocumented plant in the ground. What was relocate 2 lines becomes conflict with 11 unknowns, each needing shutdown windows, night work premiums, and union callbacks. Environmental commitments metastasize after litigation or settlement. A noise model underpredicted reflective surfaces. Now you're installing absorptive panels and floating slabs. A wetland impact forces new culverts and fish passage. Cultural resource finds pause excavation for months. The original schedule didn't budget archaeology. The new one carries a standing heritage team. Design maturity at award is a root cause few want to own. If you procure with 30% drawings, you're not getting a fixed price, you're buying a claims factory. Best practice says push design to 60 to 75% before locking scope, and complete geotech and utility potholing in full. That reduces ambiguity and prices the real job. But the approval machine rewarded speed, so you passed costs forward. Inflation shifts the floor while you're arguing the ceiling. By the time the change order lands, steel, concrete, copper, and switchgear have climbed. Lead times stretch. The contractor's overhead clock keeps ticking. Even if you negotiate hard, the baseline moved. And when procurement lag meets commodity spikes, the same scope is now a different price. Okay, but seriously, this is how the honest, boring stuff becomes billion-dollar drift. Thousands of defensible, incremental corrections layered onto a politically engineered fiction. The prevention playbook is not mysterious. Lock standards early, finish utility relocations before main works, complete ground investigations, procure integrated packages, and run independent constructability reviews. Tie fee structures to design completeness and field performance, not hours burned. Publish every change order with cause codes the public can search. If a proposal can't carry that sunlight, it hasn't earned a shovel. Risk transfer theater, contracts that pretend to protect you. Fixed price, design build, guaranteed maximum price. Sounds like armor, right? Plot twist, much of that armor can be foam. The language sells protection, but the clauses often make contractors whole when reality shows up. The public hears risk transferred, but the fine print can read risk deferred to claims. Okay, but actually, here's the engine. Contracts carry 2 faces, the press release face and the relief clauses face. The press release face says lump sum. The relief face lists a buffet of potentially compensable events. Differing site conditions, third-party delays, utility owner interference, hazardous materials, changes in law, code updates, force majeure, and owner-furnished info that turns out wrong. Each one can be a doorway back to time and money, depending on the specific language and facts. Evidence walks in wearing acronyms. DSC claims argue the ground wasn't what the geotech indicated. The fix usually isn't free. Utility conflict notices show you can't relocate a line because the utility missed its window. The clock can stop and the day rate meter can start. Environmental mitigation creep may get priced as changes. Changes in law. If wildfire smoke halts work or a new energy code lands, relief can apply. On fixed price paper, many of these are pre-priced with formulas, escalation indices, or entitlement triggers. Translation: the contractor's margin can be insulated. The owner may absorb uncertainty. Design build is sold as a silver bullet. But if you award with roughly 30% drawings, you haven't transferred much risk. You've outsourced detailing. Bridging documents are often for reference, while the owner still controls standards, permits, right-of-way, and third parties. The contractor will price what's shown and claim what isn't. When the drawings clash with utility maps or access easements, it's frequently treated as an owner-caused delay. When systems integration crosses package lines, it's a gap risk the owner tends to retain. Now here's the part that kills me. Dispute choreography is professionalized. Claims consultants build entitlement narratives, schedulers craft time impact analyses, forensic planners drop fragnet after fragnet, and counsel sets up arbitration leverage. The public thinks lawsuits. The industry often thinks negotiated settlements under change authority. Political teams hate headlines, so they settle, then bury the cash in program contingency adjustments. You'll see the cost rise without a scandal, because the scandal is the process. Force majeure used to mean acts of God. Now it's broader in many contracts. Epidemics, wildfire smoke, supply chain shutdowns, and sanctions on equipment sources have all been contested, sometimes partially compensable. Differing site conditions used to be rock where soil was shown. Today, undocumented utilities, contaminated spoils, and archaeological finds can trigger carve-outs. And owner-furnished info disclaimers are common. The contractor must rely on its own investigation, unless the owner-provided data was materially misleading, in which case relief may be available. Public-private partnerships upgrade the theater. Availability payments mean the private partner gets paid for keeping the asset available, regardless of ridership. Termination compensation schedules typically prioritize lender recovery if the public side defaults or terminates for convenience. Change in law mechanisms can ratchet payments for new compliance costs. The value for money report often proclaims risk transfer, while the finance plan encodes givebacks under supervening events, subject to the specific PPP agreement. Meanwhile, guaranteed maximum price isn't actually a guarantee if the GMP is based on incomplete design with allowances and exclusions. The contractor controls the buyout, then can convert allowances to change orders as scope clarifies. Open book looks transparent, but pain/gain sharing often has caps that protect the floor. If market inflation outruns the indices embedded in the contract, expect an equitable adjustment request with commodity letters attached. Okay, but seriously, politics finishes the job. Electeds can't afford a stopped crane. When a claim threatens to halt works, pressure mounts to resolve quickly. The negotiating frame becomes schedule recovery, not truth-finding. You'll hear best for the program as a synonym for we paid to keep moving. Audits will later note documentation flaws, but the money usually doesn't come back. So what protects you? Not slogans. Clear risk registers tied to cause-coded clauses. Completed geotech and utility relocations before main works. Design maturity thresholds before procurement. Integration of civil, systems, and stations under one accountable entity or with explicit interface pricing. Escalation formulas that reflect market reality, not wishful indices. And Sunlight, publish every claim, every settlement, and the rationale. Because without that, risk transfer is a costume change. The contractor's business model is rational. Price what you can see, claim what you can't, and safeguard margin through relief events. The public owner's mistake is thinking paper can beat physics, utilities, and time. It can't. Only alignment of incentives can. And until contracts pay for outcomes instead of inputs and delays, this theater plays on sold-out performance, taxpayer footing the bill. The physical reality check, ground truth versus PowerPoint. Soil and utilities don't care about press releases. The map says straight line, the ground says try me. Observation. Once you touch dirt, the physics tax shows up, settlement-prone soils, groundwater you didn't fully model, utilities that exist only as rumors, and rights-of-way with owners who suddenly remember their grandfather's deed. Insight. If your surveys were representative, your surprises will be expensive, and they often multiply. Here's what I think is really happening. Early geotech borings are often spaced like a brochure. Wide intervals, neat logs, optimistic classifications for preliminary design. Then the tunnel boring machine can meet a mixed face. Soft clays into harder lenses, water inflow spikes, cutter headwear doubles, and the muck plant chokes on contaminants the lab didn't tag at low sample density. Every hour of standstill can become a claim. On surface work, compacted fill can turn out to be heterogeneous, rebar, tires, hydrocarbons. So you're not grading, you're running a de facto hazardous waste operation with specialty handling and premiums. Evidence: contaminated soils are a common line item in urban work. A coarse sample grid can miss a former dry cleaner. Your export reclassifies from clean to hazardous under state thresholds. Disposal costs jump, trucking routes to limited facilities, and you need environmental monitors and manifest control every shift. Utility relocations are often worse. As-builts can be unreliable. You pothole a duct bank and find extra conduits poured in the same encasement. The utilities mark-out crew is backlogged, outage windows are seasonal, and each slip pushes critical path. Meanwhile, eminent domain isn't paperwork, it's people, and contested valuations can drag through court. Access gets delayed, staging shrinks, your crane swing hits a property line you thought you owned. Logistics is where budgets often go to die. Staging yards promised in procurement can vanish to lawsuits or local opposition. Now you're leapfrogging materials through narrow access, paying flaggers, and scheduling deliveries at 2 a.m. to dodge traffic. Night work premiums stack. Shift differentials, lighting plants, noise mitigation, neighbor complaints, and productivity loss from fatigue. Safety costs climb with complexity. More confined space permits, more spotters, more training, more stand-downs when an incident spooks the crew. Little of that was in the sunny deck. Procurement lag is the silent killer. You bid switchgear at a 30-week lead time. It shows up at 80. Transformers slide from 1 year to 2. Copper prices pop. Steel plates get allocated to a bridge 3 states over. Your bid assumptions become museum pieces while you're still waiting on permits. The same scope now has different physics and different price. You can push back, but the market sets reality. Letters from mills and OEMs become exhibits in equitable adjustments, and they're persuasive. Rights of way and permit friction compound. Rail corridors are narrow. Easements have restrictions you didn't read closely enough. Event shaft conflicts with a utility franchise. A haul route crosses a school zone with time-of-day blackouts. Fish windows and bird nesting seasons slice the calendar into unusable shards. You don't just lose days, you lose sequences. Concrete can't pour until the mitigation fence moves, which can't move until a biologist signs off, who can't show until next Tuesday at dawn. The crew waits, the overhead doesn't. Timeline kicker. Every delay isn't linear, it compounds interest and overhead. Owner's rep, CM team, security, trailers, insurance, and the contractor's general conditions keep billing. The debt service clock keeps ticking. If rates rose since your first issuance, future tranches carry higher coupons, so today's slip raises tomorrow's finance cost. Meanwhile, escalation clauses can trail real inflation. Subs want market rates, not lagging indices, and they're not wrong. Now here's the part often treated as isolated. Each small delay scrambles interfaces. A station box finishing slip means the system's contractor can't start cable pulls. The system's slip means testing compresses. Compressed testing means more punch list at occupancy. More punch means extended temporary traffic controls. Extended controls mean more neighbor claims and police overtime. The domino line reaches your PR budget. So what would have actually reduced this pain? Finish the ground truth before the headlines. Complete full coverage utility surveys, GPR, potholing, and owner verification. Then relocate before main works. Do dense geotech with cross-hole testing where it matters. Lock access and staging with recorded agreements, not letters of intent. Sequence environmental mitigation first. Award integrated packages where one party owns civil plus systems interfaces, or price the interfaces explicitly. Pay for constructability reviews led by builders, not just designers. And set material strategies that match reality. Early buy of long lead electrical gear, steel, and transformers under owner allowances. Hedged where feasible with options or indexed pricing. Because physics always wins. You can negotiate with vendors and voters. You can't negotiate with groundwater. Inflation, interest, and the time tax. Just a delay is the lie that eats budgets. Time is not neutral, it's a multiplier. Every month you slip, 3 meters show new numbers: labor, materials, and money. And the 4th meter, the political clock, can force decisions that make the first 3 worse. Observation first, it looks harmless. A notice of delay, a few RFIs, a procurement pause. Insight, those pauses compound. Labor rates escalate under many union and prevailing wage agreements, often 3 to 5% a year before overtime, shift differentials, or hazard premiums. Material quotes time out in 30 to 90 days. When you rebid, steel, rebar, copper, ductile iron, transformers, and switchgear may have moved. Financing. Carry costs don't care that the TBM hit a boulder. Here's what I think is really happening. Projects get sold with inflation assumptions cribbed from a sleepy decade. Then reality hits. Commodity spikes, pandemic whiplash, wars, tariffs, and factory backlogs. Lead times stretch from weeks to quarters to years. That pushes starts, which pushes cash flows, which pushes you to refinance or pre-fund, which adds interest you didn't price. The delay forces a financing decision. The financing decision raises the cost of the delay. That's the time tax. Evidence? Steel and rebar alone can swing a structure by double digits when mills flip to allocation. Copper volatility rewrites electrical budgets, feeders, traction power, grounding, controls. Switchgear and transformers went from roughly 30 to 40 weeks to 70, 100 plus for many owners in recent years. Some tagged around 18 months with price protection windows that snap shut. Concreted mixtures, HDP, and PVC track oil and chemical markets. You're bidding last year's design in today's market with yesterday's contingency. Debt drags hardest when the rate regime turns. A 2-point rise on unissued bonds can mean millions in extra annual debt service for decades. If you front-load issuance to dodge future hikes, you sit on cash and may pay negative arbitrage, earning less interest than you pay because federal rules cap your yield. If you don't front-load, the later tranches get pricier. Either way, the clock tends to win. And capitalized interest, sold as no payments during construction, quietly inflates your principal while you argue over duct banks. Contractor overhead is the metronome you can't mute. General conditions burn. Superintendents, field engineers, safety, QA/QC, trailers, security, insurance. Even if craft hours slow, the site stays alive. Lawyers and claims consultants bill regardless. Time impact analyses, schedule fragnets, cost segregation, negotiation prep. Those invoices don't wait for permits. But wait, it gets worse. Inflation erodes contingencies faster than change orders consume them. Your 10% reserve was set on a baseline estimate 2 years ago. Today, the same 10% buys 6 to 8% of scope. Meanwhile, escalation clauses in contracts often trail real markets, tied to indices that lag or exclude the exact goods you need. Subs walk unless you reconcile to reality. You can fight, or you can pay, but you can't build at last year's price. Supply chain shifts break sequencing. Long lead electrical gear shows up after the walls are closed. Now you're reopening chases, paying rework premiums, and stacking trades in the same room. That trashes productivity. Labor hours balloon without adding scope. Nights and weekends become normal to claw back schedule, with overtime multipliers that turn small slips into big checks. Political resets amplify the time tax. New administrations rescope for safety, climate, equity, or aesthetics. Sometimes they're right, standards needed to rise. But each standard lift lands midstream, forcing redesigns, repermits, and procurement reruns. Even a signal color change can ripple into UL listings and vendor swaps. And headline pressure to accelerate invites out-of-sequence work, double handling, temporary installs, then rip and replace. Money spent to look like progress. Here's the math nobody posts. Every month of delay pushes your substantial completion further into a higher wage and material environment and lengthens the interest tail. If your escalation model assumed 3% and reality prints 7% for 2 years, your same project is now a different project. The only honest hedge is front-loading certainty. Finish design, buy long leads early, lock major trades with realistic escalation, and stage-gate funding to readiness, not optimism. Receipts hide in payment applications. Look for rising general conditions as a share of total cost, addenda that shift equipment models to whatever's available, and equitable adjustments citing manufacturer letters. In debt footnotes, spot extended maturities pitched as savings. They lower annual pain but raise total interest. Pay less now, pay more over time. That's the mortgage trick with a public logo. So what actually works? Freeze standards before procurement. Run independent escalation curves by commodity, not a single blended rate. Pre-purchase transformers, switchgear, rail, and signals under owner-held contracts with assignment rights. Require subs to carry hedged metals where feasible, with shared pain/gain on variance. Stage utilities and Geotech to de-risk early, then sequence civil to match gear deliveries. and tie executive bonuses to ready-to-build milestones met, not press conferences held. Because time isn't a line item, it's the arena. And if you don't price the arena will price you. Winner's circle, who profits from failure. Everyone sees the blown budgets. Fewer trace who benefits along the way. Overruns tend to punish riders and taxpayers more than vendors. That asymmetry is the tell. When delay can pay, delay can become a product. Observation, the public bleeds, the private bills. Insight, the revenue stack often lets intermediaries monetize uncertainty while users absorb price hikes and service cuts. Here's what I think is really happening. Contractors first. On paper, margins are thin. In practice, relief events, time extensions, and escalation clauses can insulate the bottom line. The claims function is a real business unit in many firms. Schedulers craft time impact analyses. Cost engineers document inefficiencies. Outside counsel sharpens entitlement narratives. Many approved change orders carry overhead and profit. T&M subcontracts ride the volatility. Overtime, night work, remobilizations, typically billable. If productivity drops because sequences were scrambled, that can support an inefficiency claim. If utilities miss windows, that's often compensable standby. The longer the program, the larger the general conditions recovery can get. Subs in specialized trades can benefit from churn. Signals, traction power, switchgear installers, tunnel ventilation, few vendors, long lead times, meaningful leverage. Scope creep can mean add-on panels, cable, terminations, and extra commissioning hours. Night work premiums and safety stand-downs multiply labor rates. When designs evolve midstream, reterminations and retests generate new tickets. They're not necessarily gouging. They're pricing the chaos the project created. Consultants can win twice. Up front, they staff program management offices, risk teams, cost controllers, schedulers, and independents who report to the same sponsor. Hours often grow as complexity grows. Downstream, claims consultants parachute in to adjudicate the mess, billing at higher rates to reconstruct schedules, allocate float consumption, and testify. The more ambiguous the record, the richer the scope. Lessons learned, reports often arrive late and bill well. Banks quietly clip. Underwriting spreads on each bond tranche. Advisory fees on restructurings. Swap desk income if you hedge rates. Trustee and disclosure services for years. Refinancing savings, events can generate new fees even when total interest paid rises. Availability payment PPPs can create predictable annuities serviced through lockbox structures that lenders favor. If a termination occurs, compensation schedules often prioritize debt repayment before equity or the public, which can leave taxpayers covering gaps. Private equity-backed role UPS in construction and engineering services tend to like mega programs. They acquire niche subs and consultants, centralize bidding, flex pricing power in constrained markets, and harvest change order heavy profit streams. Earnouts can be met when projects defer perfection and embrace field fit. Quarterly earnings can treat your overrun as their beat. Real estate speculators surf the halo. Station announcements alone can lift parcels. Special assessment districts and tax increment financing capture some of that, but not all. Insiders with early line of sight, lobbyists, former officials, politically connected developers, assemble land near future stations, then sell into the hype or entitle for mixed use anchored by the promise. If timelines slip, they may still bank the uplift. If stations move, they pivot to transit-adjacent branding. The lobby ecosystem profits from many pivots. Trade groups can push standards that enlarge scope, environmental and safety groups can secure mitigations that expand budgets. Both sides can fundraise off the fight. Lobbyists with agency access shepherd change approvals, procurement tweaks, and legislative patches to backfill gaps. Retainers get paid regardless of delivery. Media gets a slice, too. Economic development, special sections and glossy supplements can run ad buys from banks, contractors, and chambers. Local stations sell airtime for ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings. Investigations appear, sometimes, but often after most spending. Meanwhile, the ad team hits quota. Insurance and surety aren't villains, they're vendors with margins tied to exposure. Owner-controlled or contractor-controlled insurance programs generate brokerage fees and loss-sensitive premium structures. Claims and safety incidents, unfortunately, bill hours for adjusters, lawyers, and third-party administrators. Longer projects mean more policy years and more premium volume. Even within government, misaligned incentives can pay. Agencies expand headcount and grade levels to manage complexity. Per diems, training budgets, consultant oversight committees, bureaucratic growth often tracks program growth. When overruns hit, the narrative can shift to capacity building, which in turn justifies more staff and more consultants. Union labor benefits from hours more than outcomes. That's not a knock, it's a fact of compensation design. Scope expansions, night shifts, remobilizations, and rework all generate billable hours and pension contributions. Leadership supports investment. Members get steady wages. The pain often lands later on riders via fare hikes shaped by debt service coverage ratios, not wage lines. Okay, but actually a perverse winner can be the project itself as a political asset. Each crisis can become a reason for new appropriations, emergency relief, or fresh federal matches. Too far along to stop becomes leverage. Sunk cost turns into a funding magnet. The organism can learn that failing upward sustains it. Receipts, scan financials, contractor margins stable across cycles despite headwinds. Consultant 10KS noting high utilization. Bank MD and as citing municipal deal flow resilience. REITs touting transit proximate assets. Look at change order logs. Owner-driven changes and third-party delays often coded as compensable. Bond official statements. Fee tables call features refundings. PPP term sheets. Termination compensation ladders, change in law mechanics, supervening event relief. Now counter-argument time. Yes, vendors deserve to be paid for risk they didn't cause. Utility owners, code updates, and force majeure aren't contractor inventions. True, the problem isn't that legitimate claims exist. It's that the market design often rewards growth in the category where claims live. Inputs and time are monetized, outcomes and certainty are underpriced. So who doesn't profit? Riders facing fare surcharges, households paying higher sales taxes and utility riders, small businesses suffering from extended street closures, future budgets cannibalized for debt service, alternative projects never built. That's the opportunity cost nobody invoices, but everybody pays. Change the winners, change the story. Flip compensation to availability plus performance with hard pain / gain sharing on schedule and cost. Tie advisory and underwriting fees to delivery milestones, not issuance volume. Publish real-time claim dashboards. Share the land value uplift with the system, not just the speculator. And stop paying bonuses for progress communications. Pay them for quiet, boring, on-time openings. Accountability mirage, audits, oversight, and blame shifting. Watchdogs often arrive after the check clears. Observation. Oversight tends to show up with binders when most funds are already committed. Insight. Audits document failure. They rarely reverse it. Here's what I think is really happening. Oversight is frequently structured as narrative control, not cost control. It validates that procedures were followed, not that outcomes were rational. Receipts look official. Performance audits, independent engineering reviews, lessons learned. They're meticulous about process lapses, missing signatures, incomplete risk registers, late monthly updates. They quantify schedule slippage and contingency burn. But clawback authority? Usually minimal. By the time an audit lands, the money's in construction draws, consultant invoices, mobilization payments, and bond-financed accounts that often can't legally be repurposed. The report recommends improved governance. The board adopts a resolution, and everyone returns to the same contracts. Now here's the part that stings. Scapegoating is a common corrective action. Fire a CEO, shuffle a board chair, rebrand the program office, and call it accountability. The vendor roster remains. Claims proceed. Change orders keep clearing. The cycle survives because personnel swaps don't change incentives. Meanwhile, new leadership gets an onboarding grace period that conveniently resets blame clocks. Transparency theater is a whole genre. Agencies launch portals with dashboards showing spend to date, percentage complete, colorful gauges. Try to open the underlying contracts, and you hit proprietary redactions. Ask for claim files and get active litigation exemptions. Even public records releases can arrive as scanned PDFs of scans, search proof, table stripped, pages missing exhibits. The public sees motion and can confuse it for disclosure. Meanwhile, independence is elastic. Oversight committees staffed with former officials and industry veterans rotate between roles. The program management consultant that built the schedule later independently critiques schedule performance. Conflict disclosures exist, but don't prevent revolving doors. Everyone declares objectivity. Everyone is embedded in the ecosystem. That's not conspiracy. It's capture by familiarity. Auditors love recommendations without teeth. Develop a comprehensive risk register. Update the cost estimate monthly. Enhance stakeholder engagement. All good. Few touch the revenue engines we've discussed: relief events, interface gaps, financing churn. You rarely read. Do not award main works before utilities are relocated. Do not issue bonds until design maturity exceeds 60%. Publish every claim and settlement within 30 days. Those would alter outcomes. Instead, we get process polish. Blame shifting is an Olympic sport. Owners blame contractors for poor productivity. Contractors blame owners for late information and differing site conditions. Utilities blame legacy maps. Environmental agencies blame incomplete submissions. Politicians blame predecessors. Predecessors blame changed conditions. Each party holds a slice of truth big enough to dodge full responsibility, and the audit spreads guilt evenly to avoid lawsuits. Balanced blame becomes the budget. And this is where they messed up, treating governance as a meeting cadence. Monthly progress meetings, risk workshops, steering committees, good habits, weak levers. If your funding model pays for inputs and delay, your governance model needs enforcement powers that hit cash. Without stop/go gates tied to independent readiness criteria, oversight is commentary, not control. Public fatigue is the quiet ally of waste. Outrage peaks when the first big overrun hits, then it decays as numbers get abstract. Another $2.1 billion sounds like the last headline. Reporters rotate beats, community groups burn out, legislative hearings run long on speeches and short on subpoenas. The project limps forward because stopping feels like admitting sunk costs, and continuing spreads the pain thin. What would real oversight look like? Start with daylight. Publish all prime and major subcontracts, full text searchable. Post monthly change order logs with cause codes. Owner change, third-party delay, differing site condition, design error, force majeure. Include amounts, time impacts, and responsible party. Force a third-party cost validator, truly independent, barred from later program work, to rebaseline quarterly. Mandate disclosure of bond fee tables, advisor compensation, and any derivative positions in simple language. Next, add teeth. Stage-gate the money. No bond issuance or grant drawdown until land assembly, utility relocation, and Geotech are complete, with exceptions voted in public. Set statutory clawbacks on executive bonuses if rebaselines miss by set thresholds. Require legislative approval for scope expansions above a small percentage, with a public. Value for money refresh. Tie underwriting spreads and advisory fees to milestone delivery, not issuance volume. Then fix the conflict problem. Cooling off periods for senior agency staff before they can join vendors on the same project. Separate the program management function from any role in claims defense or schedule forensics. Rotate audit firms every 3 years and ban them from non-audit services on the program. Make proprietary a narrow exception, not a blanket. Finally, invite the public into the receipts. Raw data feeds, not PDFs. Open APIs for spend, change, and schedule. Independent watchdogs and civic coders can surface patterns your committee won't. If the story is truly unforeseen, show it. If it isn't, the sunlight will change behavior faster than a binder full of recommendations. Because right now, oversight often arrives like rain after a fire. Too late to save the house, just in time to grow weeds. Case study timeline, from groundbreaking to grounded. Year 0, voters bless the dream. The ballot language promises a sleek spine across the state for roughly $33 billion with service within the 2020s. Renders glow, multipliers purr. The enabling bonds authorize billions with capitalized interest, so nobody feels pain during ramp-up. The fine print: design is conceptual, utilities unmapped, and right-of-way acquisition underway. Context: this mirrors California's high-speed rail launch conditions and public reporting on its early estimates and scope maturity. Year 1 to 2. The authority staffs up, hires program managers, and publishes a risk register with more yellow than red. Early contracts go out on bridging designs, 30% drawings at best. Land assembly lurches, voluntary sales lag, eminent domain petitions stack, valuations escalate. The schedule assumes parallel progress on permits, utilities, and design maturity. Translation: best case stacked on best case. Year 3, first groundbreakings, photo ops, golden shovels, local dignitaries. The press calls it shovels in the ground. In the field, it's clearing, fencing, and test piles. Utility potholing turns rumor into reality. Undocumented duct banks, abandoned lines that aren't abandoned, and owners who need 9 months for planned outages. Initial change orders appear coded third-party delay. Year 4, cost estimate rebaseline number 1. Inflation lifted steel and rebar. Switchgear lead times doubled. Contaminated soils discovered at multiple sites. The authority assures manageable variance. Debt service rises as new tranches price into a higher rate environment. To keep headlines calm, they refinance older debt to lower annual payments, often by extending maturities. Total interest creeps up. In California's case, public estimates later escalated into the roughly $120 to $135+ billion range per public reports. Year 5, lawsuits over environmental mitigations settle with added commitments: noise walls, wildlife crossings, extra stormwater facilities. Station designs expand to meet revised fire life safety interpretations. The ridership model quietly updates with lower growth, but the public deck sticks to round numbers. Construction packages start stepping on each other. Interfaces multiply. Integration meetings multiply faster. Year 6, federal milestones loom. To preserve grant eligibility, the authority pushes procurements before designs are ready. Long lead electrical orders slip. A temporary procurement strategy buys partial systems with promises to integrate later. Claims consultants appear on both sides. Time impact analyses start carving out days, then weeks, from the critical path. Year 7, utility relocations miss windows again. Summer moratoriums, agricultural seasons, school zones, access calendars shred sequences. Contractors file differing site condition notices for groundwater inflows above baseline. Hazardous waste export costs spike when disposal facilities hit capacity. Night work premiums become normal. General conditions swell as a share of cost. The burn rate persists while physical progress lags. Year 8, rebaseline number 2. The early operating segment shrinks to a Central Valley corridor. The statewide narrative reframes: build where we can first. Budgets shift to focus on the valley. Some urban segments pause pending funding clarity. Bond disclosure documents often cite coverage covenants that can require fair measures upon opening. Politicians claim pragmatic phasing. This mirrors California's pivot to a Central Valley initial operating segment for public statements. Year 9, rights-of-way takings drag through court. A handful of parcels block station egress. Staging yards relocate, adding haul distance and traffic control costs. Environmental monitors discover cultural artifacts. Excavation pauses for months. The program publishes a dashboard with percent complete gauges. They move, not fast enough to outrun interest. Year 10, inflation heats up. Annual labor escalators stack with overtime. Copper and transformers price into a different planet. The authority approves equitable adjustments tied to manufacturer letters. Procurement rules make early buy cumbersome. Legal counsel okays special solicitations for long leads. The public hears supply chain. The budget hears more zeros. Year 11, a new administration tweaks standards, electrification specs, climate resilience, and equity-driven design revisions. Some changes are overdue. All have costs. Repermitting roles. The systems contractor can't start until the civil contractor hands over a station box. The civil contractor needs utility clearance still pending. Claims proliferate around owner-caused delay. Settlement pressure rises to keep cranes moving. Year 12, federal oversight intensifies. Compliance reviews question schedule credibility, risk registers, and ridership assumptions. A missed procurement milestone for equipment triggers letters. The authority argues progress on structures. The feds point to absent integrated plans and funding gaps. The project becomes a national talking point, booster or boondoggle, your pick. Year 13, media digs into change order logs. Standby charges for crews waiting on third parties, inefficiency claims from stacked trades, and owner-directed design enhancements top the list. A few eye-popping numbers trend for a weekend, then attention shifts. Meanwhile, refinancing touts savings, while the amortization tail stretches into the 2050s. Year 14, a formal rebaseline lifts the cost range to north of $100 billion for full build. The Valley segment alone doubles from early estimates. Opportunity cost enters the legislative debate. Bridges, water systems, and buses wither while the train eats dollars. Local agencies pitch bus rapid transit as near-term relief. State leaders insist the rail is foundational. Year 15, construction advances, viaducts rise, guideway pours, some track beds form. No high-speed track is in service. Testing is still distant. Systems interfaces remain unresolved. A new tranche of bonds prices higher than planned. Special assessment districts near stations show uneven value uplift. Some land speculators cash out anyway. Year 16, federal grants face potential clawbacks or reductions tied to compliance concerns, missed deadlines, weak risk controls, and funding gaps. The authority disputes. Litigation looms in some scenarios. The amount spent crosses into the tens of billions. Public patience thins. Commuters still sit in traffic. Small businesses near prolonged closures count losses. Displaced residents fight for fair compensation, long after the cameras left. Recent headlines in various jurisdictions have included federal moves to suspend or condition funding when oversight flags risks. Year 17, a leadership change. New CEO, new consultants, new promise. Reset and deliver. An audit lands, damning on process, toothless on recovery. Recommendations echo what we've said. Finish utilities first, stop awarding on incomplete design, publish claims. The board adopts them. Claims continue. Vendors remain. Year 18. The Valley segment edges towards civil completion. Systems still trail. The schedule shows substantial completion, years out. The debt tail is now a structural feature of the state budget. Farebox projections soften again. A clean sheet independent cost validation echoes early skeptics. The scope, as sold, never matched the price. Human impact, because this isn't just math. Commuters lost a decade of incremental improvements they could have had for a fraction of the cost. Small shops endured barricades through peak seasons. Farm operators navigated rerouted equipment and broken access. Families fought takings. Riders will inherit fare surcharges pegged to bond coverage, not service quality. Receipts, bond OS tables with fee spreads and maturities stretching decades. Change logs coded owner-caused, third-party delays, and DSCs. Consultant invoices with record utilization. Federal letters citing missed milestones. The pattern is plain. Decisions repeated, costs compounded. Opportunity cost is the moral. For the price of one promise, a dozen useful things died in committee. And the worst part, this timeline isn't unique. Only the zip code changes. Steelman, the best arguments for mega projects. Let's Steelman the other side, because there are real reasons to build big. First, capacity. Some corridors are maxed out. You can add bus lanes and tweak signals for years, but at a certain density, only grade-separated, high-capacity infrastructure moves the needle. Second, climate. Mode shift at scale requires attractive, fast alternatives that beat cars and short-haul flights. Third, resilience. Aging networks fail together. Sometimes you need a new spine to offload stress. Fourth, economic coordination. Big builds can synchronize housing, utilities, and jobs around a clear anchor, aligning public and private investment. These are legitimate aims when execution is disciplined. Observation. When megaprojects work, they can unlock decades of compounding benefits, time savings, safety, lower emissions, agglomeration effects, and operating efficiencies. Think Crossrail/Elizabeth Line in London. Painful delays, yes, but a functioning, high-capacity service now moves hundreds of thousands daily and helped unlock station area development. Think Madrid's rapid metro expansion. Disciplined unit costs, standardized designs, staged delivery, strong ridership capture. Think the Orsun Bridge, regional integration, trade, labor mobility. Even in the US, the Alaskan Way Viaduct replacement, completed 2019, delivered seismic safety and waterfront reconnection. The point: scale can pay off when execution is disciplined and governance is adult. None of these were easy, they were managed. Here's what I think is really happening when big wins land. The sponsor locks scope ruthlessly. They freeze standards early, run reference class forecasting, and gate money behind real readiness. Land assembled, utilities relocated, geotech done. Contracting aligns incentives. alliancing or target price models with shared pain/gain, open book GMP with independent cost validation, and integrated packages to kill interface risk. Political leaders stay out of the details and stick to a single story, no midstream vision upgrades. Transparency isn't a press release. It's live change order logs and scheduled data the public can actually read. Evidence supports that discipline matters more than romance. Sydney's Northwest Metro largely hit targets using standardized stations and tight governance. Scandinavia's design libraries and rolling stock standardization compress both cost and schedule. Switzerland's NEAT/NRLA tunnels were brutally complex, but staged funding, independent technical panels, and referendum-backed scope control kept the program coherent. Even in Japan, Shinkansen extensions lean on playbooks, reused specs, rigorous utility prep, clear land assembly powers, so contractors aren't guessing their way through fog. Counter-argument to my critique. If you only fund incremental fixes, you trap cities in car dependency and declining rail. You can't bust your way out of a 50-year capacity gap. Fair. There's a ceiling to incrementalism. Another. Big projects attract federal and private money locals couldn't get otherwise. Saying no leaves money on the table. Also true in some programs. And early cost uncertainty doesn't mean fraud. It reflects real unknowns. We learn by building. Yes, risk isn't a sin. But here's where our boondoggle fails those conditions. We didn't lock scope. We expanded it. We didn't finish utilities. We awarded main works. We didn't standardize. We bespoked everything. We didn't price escalation honestly. We used yesterday's indices. Contracts weren't outcome paid. They were relief enabled. Governance didn't gate money. It narrated progress. Political cycles kept tweaking standards midstream. And transparency showed dashboards, not receipts. It's not that ambition is wrong. It's that incentives rewarded delay more than delivery. Nuance matters. Don't throw out mega projects. Fix the market design around them. If you want climate wins, fund the boring prerequisites: land, utilities, geotech, permits before you celebrate. If you want private capital, price risk credibly and share upside for genuine performance, not survival. If you want equity, prove it with station area housing at scale, value capture that funds fares, and construction hiring tied to real training, not ribbon rhetoric. Okay, but actually, the strongest steelman is long-term value. A mega project has a multi-decade ledger. If it opens years late, but then saves millions of hours annually, cuts emissions, and reduces crashes, society can still win, provided cost per unit of benefit is sane. That's the honest test. Cost per passenger minute saved, cost per ton of CO2 avoided, cost per life saved from safety upgrades, all against credible baselines. If a mega can beat a portfolio of smaller projects on those metrics, build it. If it can't, the vision is a subsidy to prestige, and you should fund the portfolio. So what would I back? A mega project with a locked reference design, standardized components, integrated civil plus systems procurement, real pain/gain sharing, full early utility relocation, independent estimate and schedule reviews, staged openings with usable benefits each phase, and ironclad transparency. Tie federal tranches to third-party readiness audits. Publish every claim within 30 days. Share land value uplift with riders. And make the last political photo the opening day, not groundbreaking. Ambition isn't the enemy. Paying more for time and chaos than for outcomes is. Fix that, and big can stop being a boondoggle and start being a bargain. Fixing the incentives, a better build model. Bad incentives, bad outcomes. Flip the reward system, or keep buying change orders at retail. The goal isn't magic, it's aligning money with outcomes instead of inputs and delay. Start with stage gates that actually gate. No bond issuance, PPP financial close, or federal draw until readiness is proven by an independent auditor with no downstream work. Checklist, not vibes. Land assembled and recorded, utility relocations completed and signed off by owners, geotech to density thresholds with lab validation, reference design frozen, environmental permits final, and long lead equipment procurement strategies approved. If you can't clear the gate, you can't spend. That alone can kill a large share of fantasy schedules. Next, independent cost validation and reference class forecasting is law, not suggestion. Bring in a cold-blooded estimator who doesn't want your next contract. Force a top-down check against delivered projects, not planned, adjusted for local labor, commodity indices, and logistics. Publish the P50, P80, P95 cost and schedule ranges, and tie contingency releases to real risk retirement, not calendar dates. When people see the worst case, they tend to behave better. When politicians see it, some projects won't pass. Good. Procure structure to remove the claims factory. Alliancing or integrated project delivery with shared pain/gain often beats performative fixed price on incomplete design. Set a target cost validated by the independent estimator. All parties, owner, designer, builder, key subs, share underruns and overruns on a graduated curve. Profit rises if the project beats target. It falls before public money does when costs blow up. Escalation exposure is shared against transparent indices agreed in advance. No one wins by dragging time. Open book GMP can work if the book is actually open and the G is earned. Condition GMP on design maturity. Minimum 60 to 75% IFC level documents, and a completed constructability review by builders, not just designers. Ban the allowance shell game. Either scope is defined and carried, or it sits outside GMP until locked, with explicit interface pricing. Build in a hard stop for owner-directed enhancements without equal value deducts. If leadership wants upgrades midstream, they must cut elsewhere in the same vote. Kill interface risk by bundling what actually interfaces. Civil, stations, and systems should live under one accountable integrator or under a prime with explicit price lines for interfaces, tested in pre-award simulations. Force the winning team to build a fully integrated 4D schedule before notice to proceed, then publish it. Any variance over a threshold triggers an early warning and joint recovery plan. You don't buy claims, you buy coordination. Pre-procurement guardrails save lives and dollars. Move utilities before main works, or don't start. Period. If utility owners refuse, escalate to statutory mechanisms with compensation funded by the program, not wishful thinking. Finish Geotech with the density we pretend to have, close spacing, cross-hole, groundwater monitoring. Pay for early buys on long lead components, transformers, switchgear, rail, signals, under owner-held contracts that can be assigned to the builder. Hedge metals where feasible and split variance with suppliers. Sunlight isn't a blog post, it's a live dashboard with receipts. Publish prime and major subcontracts in full text, searchable. Post change orders within 30 days with cause codes, amounts, and time impacts. Show the risk register, owner and vendor versions with mitigation status. Add bond fee tables, underwriting spreads, advisor compensation, swap positions, and refunding math in plain language. Release monthly earned value curves alongside schedule and cash burn. If you can't defend it in public, don't sign it in private. Rewire pay for outcomes. Tie executive bonuses to readiness gates met, cost to target, and schedule adherence, weighted to later milestones, not press events. For vendors, build performance pools that pay when availability, safety, and commissioning metrics hit cumulative targets. Flip standby economics. Reduce paid standby for owner-caused delays by giving the contractor a right to reassign crews with partial compensation now and a smaller premium later. That removes the perverse incentive to sit and bill. Fix PPPs by cutting the theater. Availability deals only after the public clears land, utilities, permits, and long leads. Termination compensation should protect lenders from political expropriation, not from poor preparation. Narrow supervening event definitions. Cap change in law adjustments to objective baselines, and require private equity to keep real at-risk capital through construction, not paper-thin slivers. Reward early COD with step-up availability, penalize late COD without backdoor relief, subject to the specific PPP agreement. Mandate standardization and platforming. Reference designs for stations, portals, systems rooms, and OCS. Standard components and SKUs. Approved vendor lists with competitive pools, and clear deviation penalties. Standard is boring. Boring is cheap. Every bespoke curve can become a future leak. Finally, build an institutional memory that outlasts elections. A permanent delivery office with authority to enforce gates, maintain a library of reference classes, and train a cadre of estimators, schedulers, and contract managers who rotate across programs, but are barred from joining vendors on the same project for years. Pay them well. Their job is to say, not yet, until the project deserves a yes. Do this, and ambition tends to get cheaper. Don't, and we'll keep paying premiums for hope. Personal finance angle. how boondoggles hit your budget. Okay, but actually, this isn't abstract. It shows up on your bills. Start with taxes. Sales tax hikes for transportation look tiny. Half a cent here, a cent there, but they compound across every purchase. Property taxes creep through debt service levies and special districts that rarely sunset. If you rent, your landlord often passes it along in higher rent because their carrying costs rose. That's the quiet bleed. This is why debt service coverage ratios on some transit bonds can translate into fare surcharges, even when service quality lags. Utility bills carry riders. You'll see infrastructure resilience, clean energy, system reliability, often created to backstop bonds or availability payments tied to the megaproject's power needs or to offset agency deficits. $3 a month can become $5, then $10, and it can be permanent. Transit fares tack on temporary surcharges to meet bond coverage ratios. Those 1.25x or 1.5x covenants we talked about. The math doesn't care about equity. It cares about debt service. Services lag. When a mega eats the capital plan, the bus that should come every 8 minutes slips to 12, then 15. Trains run shorter consists. Station maintenance defers. Your commute reliability drops while your fares inch up. That's time you can't invoice to anyone. Lost daycare windows, missed shifts, extra Uber rides. It's a wage cut disguised as a schedule. Insurance can tick up. Prolonged construction and degraded infrastructure can raise claims. Water main breaks, sinkholes, fender benders on crumbling arterials. Insurers price that risk across the region. You don't get a line item called Boondoggle Premium, but your renewal can feel it. Same with wages. Local businesses spend more on detours, deliveries, and coping. They may hold wages flat or raise prices. Inflation you can't fight. Opportunity cost is the big invisible. If $50 billion had gone to lead pipe replacement, bridge rehabs, and bus lanes, your family sees cleaner water, faster trips this year, and fewer car repairs from potholes. Instead, you get a decade of construction, then a fare hike to ride something that may not serve your corridor. The alternative universe where your kid's school got HVAC upgrades and your bus got all-day frequency? That's gone. So what can you do tactically? Vote with receipts. When bond measures hit your ballot, read the official statement summaries and the project list. If design maturity is low and utilities aren't relocated, vote no and demand stage gates. Ask for P50/P80 cost ranges, not a single feel-good number. Track rate cases. Utilities file publicly. Submit comments, show up at hearings, ask whether riders fund debt for unrelated projects. Demand sunset clauses and automatic step-downs. Watch the muni market. If you hold a tax-exempt fund, skim the top 10 holdings. Look for exposure to the megaproject's issuing authority. Read the credit outlook. Watch for negative watches tied to cost overruns. Diversify if your local risk is concentrated. Follow coverage covenants. Transit revenue bonds disclose debt service coverage and required fare measures. If ridership lags, agencies may have to hike prices. Plan passes accordingly, or press for alternative revenue tied to land value, not fares. Use watchdog tools. File public records requests for change order logs and claims cause codes. You don't need to be a lawyer. Ask for monthly logs, not emails. Post findings. Sunlight changes behavior. Demand value capture that pays you back. If land near stations appreciates, insist on policies that recycle that uplift into fair relief and operating budgets. Split rate property taxes, special assessments with rider rebates, or revenue sharing JPA agreements. Hedge your commute. If your corridor is a construction zone for years, run the math. Is a folding e-bike plus a transit pass cheaper than driving and parking? Does a job closer to home wipe out the time tax? Even temporary changes can save thousands. Support the boring wins. Show up for bus lanes, signal priority, and maintenance bonds that fix pipes and bridges. They don't have ribbon-cutting glamour, but they put minutes back in your day and reduce the repair bills. Investor angle, rapid fire. Prefer essential service muni credits with diversified revenue, strong reserves, and conservative debt profiles. Be wary of issuers leaning on rosy ridership or speculative value capture. Ladder maturities to avoid rate spikes, and stress test for 2-point rate moves. Read derivative footnotes. Basis risk can bite in volatile markets. This isn't about cynicism, it's about leverage. When enough voters ask for readiness gates, independent cost validation, and claim-by-claim transparency, boards can shift. When enough riders demand value capture that lowers fares, finance models can change. Your wallet is already in the game. Make your voice expensive to ignore. If failure pays better than delivery wheel, keep minting monuments to waste and calling them progress. Drop your city's worst project and the one receipt you want surfaced next. I'll prioritize the most actionable leads. Subscribe for Follow the Money breakdowns with receipts, not vibes, and share this so your town doesn't buy the same $50 billion lesson twice. Want the toolkit, stage gates, claim dashboards, and value capture checklists to pressure your board this week? Say toolkit in the comments and I'll pin it.